Hello everyone, welcome to our Rhash-Algo channel. In this video, we are going to talk about error handling or exception handling in Python. What is this error handling or exception handling? In general, any program while it is getting executed will get several issues, and because of those issues there may be a chance that program may be halted or may be shut down, or there may be a situation like there may be a crashing happens for the entire application. To avoid these kind of situations, we need to handle those errors in a graceful manner. There are several ways to do that, like we have to manage those errors where the process of identifying and addressing errors in a program in a seamless way to respond the errors in reacting appropriately to errors to maintain program stability. To prevent crashes, we have to gracefully handle these exceptions so that our program won't be crashed. This is Rajesh Paleru, and if you want to know much about me, you can follow me on the LinkedIn page given at the bottom of the screen. Okay, let's get started, guys. How do we handle these exceptions in Python? Okay, to handle these exceptions or errors, we need to make sure that we put all the code of the block that we think that this code may raise exceptions. We need to anticipate that this specific block of the code may give some exception. Okay, just thinking that way, we have to put our code within the try section, which is nothing but this block, which is before except keyword and after try. So between try and except, we have to put our code whichever we are thinking that that code may raise some exception or error. Okay, let's see with some example. Okay, we are more into examples rather than theory. Now let's create some file. Now what I wanted to do is, but before even that, what will happen if we don't handle the exception? So let's see that, guys. Okay, so I want to create some variable with 5 divided by 0. Okay, now I want to print 5, sorry, a. Now let me run this program. Python 6. Are we in the correct path? No, let me change the path. Cd to, okay. Okay, what it is saying? It is saying that it got zero division error. What that means? If you have followed the mathematical concepts in your studies, for example, if you are an MPC student, like maths is one of your subject, you should be aware of this error. This is nothing but zero division error. This is called zero division error because if we divide any number with 0, we'll get this exception or this error. Now how do we handle this in Python? Okay, to do that, what I simply need to do is, let's put this code block, which is a equal to 5 divided by 0 except pass is nothing but I'm not doing anything. Okay, now let me run this program. Okay, what error we got here? Name error. What does that mean is, a variable a is not defined at all, because though I defined it here a equal to 5 divided by 0, it had thrown an exception to me. That's the reason I am getting this exception. Okay, now what I can do is, to avoid this kind of situations or these errors, I will put that print statement within this try block, and then I will run the program again. Now program is successful, nothing printed on the screen. Okay, now if I wanted to handle this specific exception by giving a naming, I need to mention that name here, like zero division error. It's always better to specify the exception name when you are giving the except keyword. Okay, if you handle the exception in a generic way, what will happen is all the exceptions will fall into that category. Until unless you don't know the exception name, don't use except only thing, except only. Okay, once you handled all the exceptions like zero division error, name error, maybe some other exceptions, then you can go for the normal or generic exception handling. Okay, now let me print something like this. Now what happens is I will get this message because as soon as this line encountered, I got zero division error. What is that? That is an exception. As soon as I get this zero division error exception, my code block started here executing, which is nothing but a print statement, right? Now the print message zero division by zero is printed on the screen. That's about the basic example of try except block. Now let's look at some other scenario. Okay, how do we handle multiple exceptions? Let's see that with some example. Okay, now I want to put something like this. Okay, equal to int of abc. Let's just put a. Okay, there won't be any difference. Let me clear my screen. Python. What is the 7.5? Okay, what I got? Value error. Okay, now let me handle this exception. Okay, I just wanted to show you that. I just wanted to show you that how I am handling multiple exceptions. Except value error, print value error, handled. Okay, now I got it right. Now I handled only value error exception. Okay, so what happens is as soon as my interpreter came to this line, it tries to check for int of a, which is an invalid thing, invalid value error. Okay, because of that I will get the value error exception. Let me run this program. Value error handled. Okay, so now if I want to handle multiple errors, I will be putting like type error. Okay, did you see this here? What is it saying? Syntax error. This is also one of the exception. Why we got this exception? We got this exception because the syntax that I followed here is not accurate. It is saying that we have to put multiple exceptions types in the parenthesis, which is nothing but something like this. Okay, now let me run the program. Yeah, it's done successfully. Now let's move on. Okay, what is this finally? Okay, let's get into this in this code only. Finally, okay, print finally. Okay, I'm running this program. I just wanted to explain this. Okay, now what happened here? If you see this program clearly, irrespective of code execution, whether it is in a try block or exception block, will come into the final block. Okay, let's give some kind of successful thing here, which is nothing but successful code. I will be giving a successful code which will be running successfully. Print a. Okay, now I don't come into the exception block. Okay, observe carefully, guys. Did you observe this two executions? On first execution I am getting the value error handled, which means I got an exception because I passed character, which is nothing but a string a or something, whichever is not format of base 10 for int class. Okay, then I got value error exception, and that's the reason I got this message printed, and finally I am able to print this finally message. Okay, that's first execution. Second execution is I gave proper value in the string format, which is a string value of 6, and that is the reason it got converted into integer value with the help of int typecasting happened here, and then I printed that value. Finally, what happened? I got this message printed. So in both the cases, irrespective the program is successful, that means irrespective of the block within the try except is successful or it throws an error, in both the cases I am going into the finally block and executing the code whatever they present in that finally block. Okay, why we need finally? Let's assume you have opened a connection to the database, or you might have opened a connection to the file to write a content into the file, or maybe to write some data into the database, or to read some data from the SQL statements. So let's assume these are the some of the scenarios where you have opened a connection to the database or to a file. Okay, then what happens is there will be several connections opened while your program is getting executed, or maybe several applications are utilizing your program. Then after certain time, because of these connections, a connection pool will be established and a lot of connections will pile up, and because of that there will be a degradation to your application. To avoid these kind of situations, what we need to do is at the end of program execution, irrespective of successful status or failure status, which means if your program got successfully executed, which means you are reading the data from the database successfully, or you are writing the data to the database successfully, or you are reading content from a file successfully, or you might be writing some content to a file successfully. Okay, these are the successful scenarios. Failure scenarios, what are those? Maybe you are unable to read the data from the database though the connection is opened, or maybe you are unable to write some content or some data to the database though the connection is opened. Same with the file also. So these are the failure scenarios. In these two scenarios, what we are doing is I am opening the connection to the database or to the file, or maybe to the network, right? But how do I ensure that the connection is closed? That is where the finally block will come into the picture, and that's a savior for me, where in this finally block I will put all my closing connections, whether it can be database connection, or whether it can be file related connection, or whether it is network related connection. I will put all the closing, like database closing connection, data file closing connection, all those closing connections I will be putting into that finally block. Maybe I will be putting some final statement, whichever it is. Okay, those are some of the scenarios where this finally block will be really helpful for me. Okay, yeah, that's about try, accept, and finally. Now, how do I raise my custom exceptions, or maybe something like a relevant exception based on my requirement? Okay, maybe there are some exceptions which is already available in Python, but I want to raise my own exception also, right? So in such scenarios, raise keyword will help us. Okay, let's write some sample program for that. Added by, okay, def fun num if num less than 0, raise value error negative. Okay, let me run this program. Python it.py. Okay, what happened here? First of all, it is trying to raise the exception with value error. Okay, this is the type, exception type. And what is the message? Message is nothing but the value that I gave here. Okay, okay, it is raising the exception. Now how can I handle this? It is in the same way. It's like try except print here. Okay, so if I want to assign the exception related reference or related stack trace to a variable like e, I need to specify something like this value error as e, and then I can print that. Okay, now let me run this program again. Okay, what happened here is I handled that exception. If you see here, I handled that exception. Since I handled that exception, I got the message only. So if I don't handle that exception, I could have got all the stack trace like this. Okay, that's pretty much from my side guys on Python exceptions or error handling. If you want more videos on Python or any other trending technologies, stay tuned to my channel. Thank you so much.